Let's start. Right. Generating top of list and what end of list for ALV. Great. So just like if you take our normal ABAP reporting, we have top of page event and end of page event to generate the heading and to generate the what footer. We go for that event. So similarly here also we have to go for what we have to generate the heading and what footer for what ALV grid. So let's see how to do it. Right, so see here, so what is the standard ALV component? SALV underscore WD underscore what table. Okay, so far if you want to display the data in the ALV format, what is that we are following? We are what creating the final node as part of what component controller, and we are mapping our final node with the data node of what standard component. And apart from that, as part of our view, we are assuming we are what placing a view container. On top of that view container we are placing what some external window called as what table. Okay, so if you want to generate the top of list and end of list, let me go to the standard component first. So if you go to SC80, so far we are mapping our final node with what data node. Okay, here also we have to map our final node with the data node. And apart from that, if you take the standard component SALVW table, this standard component also will have some context. So if I go to the component controller, in the component controller we have the context tab. So this is the context defined by whom? SAP itself for this particular standard component. One of the node is what? Data node. So what we are doing so far? We are mapping our final node with what? Data node. So here also we have to map our final node with data node. And apart from that, we have to consider two more nodes. What are this? Top of list and what? End of list. Now we have to do reverse mapping. Earlier what we have done? We have mapped the context node from our component to what the external component, what SLUW table. Now for top of list and end of list, in our component we have to create some nodes for top of list and end of list. You have to do reverse mapping, means we have to map the top of list and end of list of this standard component to what our own component. So that is the change you have to do. Okay, so if you see the node structure here, what is the node name? Top of list. What is the cardinality? 1:1. Under this they have taken one attribute. What is the attribute name? Content. You can take any name. If this attribute is what type? It is of reference what? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore what element. Okay, and for end of list also they have taken one attribute which is a what type? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore what element. Am I clear? So we should also create some two nodes with one attributes each, and that attribute should be what type? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore element. That is what the change you have to do. Okay, so it is something like this. Our ALV data will be available. On top of this, you have to generate some content, and bottom of this, you have to generate what? Some content. This top of list, we require what? One node. In that, I have to take one attribute, any name. This attribute should be what type? It should be of reference of what? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore element. Similarly, for end of list also, we have to consider one node, any name. In that you have to take any attribute, but the attribute type should be what type? CL underscore SALV underscore form underscore element. So how do I know that? By looking at what? Standard component context. Okay, in the standard component also, the attribute is what type? CL reference of what? So and so. So with that knowledge, we have to create this. And the rest of the part is what? Same. Am I clear? So let's see how to do it quickly. Right, I'll give the window name underscore window. Let me give the view name as v1. Okay, top of list and what? End of list. I'll save it in the local object. Right. So this is my comment. So as usual, what you have to, as part of your component in ALV, your final node should be at what level? Component controller level, so that we can do what? External context mapping. So as part of my component controller, I assume that I want to display the sales orders. So I'll go for a node called as VBAK node dictionary structure. Let me use ZC VBAK cardinality multiple records. I'll take 0 to n. I'll add the attributes from the structure. Continue. Okay, right. This is available now. Right. So what I have to do now? Okay, first let me do the normal ALV. Then what you have to do as part of your view, we have to take what? View container. Before that, let me do the internal context mapping. I'll map our VBAK node onto the view level. Then as part of my view layout, I'll take one view container. Right. Then this view will be embedded to what? This view will be embedded to what? Window. Okay. Here I have to embed what? External window called as what? Table. But by default it is not available. So I need to include that component. First of all, at what level? Component level. So as part of our component level, I'll include the standard component SALV underscore W underscore table with some component usage names. I gave it as ALV. Now go back to the window level. Component usage got created. Go back to the window level. Now try to embed the external window called as a table. So I'll embed the external window table. Done. We use what? Embedded. Done. Then what else you have to do? Under component usages, under what? Interface controller, you have to do the external context mapping. So if you open our component controller, in our component controller we have a node what? VBAK node that you have to map with what? Data node. So we are doing the mapping from our component to interface controller, means our component to the included component. So I'll just map this to data node. Done. External mapping for data is what? Defined. Okay, then let me implement the wd init method. In the wd init method, let me get the data, get the default what? Sales orders. I'll declare an internal table, type wd underscore this of what? Elements underscore VBAK node. Then I'll just select Webland date time year NAM from VBAK into table t underscore what? VBAK where Webland in what? SO underscore what? Webland. So I got the data into what? Our internal table. Done. Next. Okay, once again I got the data into, no, right, into table. So answer what, up to what, some 10 rows. So there is no select option here, right? So I'm getting the data into that. Then what I have to do, if the data is available, let us get the reference of the node. Get the reference of the node, what, vbak underscore node. So let me declare a local reference, context underscore vbak node, type ref2. Sorry. Ah, I can say if T VBAK not it. But why I'm following this is anyway I'm immediately after select na, so I'm going for size sub RC. If you are doing that at some other place, then obviously I should not go for size sub RC. I have to go for what, internal table, not initial. Since I'm doing it immediately after select, I'm going for size sub RC. Anything is fine. If context underscore VBA, sorry, context underscore what, node. If underscore what, w underscore context. Let me get the reference. It is a child of what, our root context. So I'll go to pattern, wd context. If wd context node, and what is this, get child nodes. Name of the node is wd underscore this of what, wd context underscore vbak underscore node. References context vbak nodes. Done. And here I'll say, yeah, if context underscore vbak underscore node is what, bound, if the object is created, I'll bind what, sales order. So this is known to us. I'll just bind the sales orders. Context underscore vbak node of bind underscore table. What is the internal table, t underscore vbak. Done. Done. Activate this. Let me create the application first. Create the Webdynpro application. Let me activate the component. Right, component is activated. Right, component is activated. When I execute this, I should get the default sales orders. Right, so I got the default sales orders. Now what is the requirement? On the top I have to generate some content, and the bottom I have to generate some footer. Okay, header and what, footer. So simple adjustment is, as part of your component controller, let us create what, one node. Create, what is this, node. Any name you can give. I'll give a meaningful name. What is this, top of list underscore what, node. Okay, any name I can give. Top of list node. Cardinality is what, 1:1, continue. Okay, under this node I'll create what, one attribute. You can give any name for the attribute. Let me give the same name. What is that, content. It should be reference, type ref2. Type ref2. Okay, what is that they are saying, cl underscore salv underscore form underscore what, element. Okay, so I'm replicating the standard node. Okay, continue. Done. Then similarly for end of list also, I'll create one node. End of list underscore what, node. Cardinality is what, 1:1, continue. Under this node also, I'll create one attribute. Right click on the node, I'll create an attribute. Let me give the attribute name as content. Again, what type ref2 cl underscore slu underscore form underscore element. Done. No, I am replicating. No, no, here why I am creating the node is that's what I have shown. If you see the standard component, in the standard component, if you see this, there's a context given by SAP itself. So they also created what? A node. Under that, they created one attribute referring to that. So I am replicating the what? I cannot map attribute with a node, but I can map node to node. At the end, what I have to do? I have to map our node with the standard node. So it should be node to node mapping. It cannot be attribute to what? Node mapping. Okay, so I'm replicating the standard one. Done. So, okay, this is what you have to do. Next, what you have to do is earlier what we did under what component usages, under what interface controller, what you have done, we have mapped our node with what data node. So this is called as what external context mapping. We are mapping the context node from our component controller to the interface controller. Interface controller means the controller related to the included component. Okay, now see the change. Now you come to your component level. This is the context available in your component level. Now what you do is, as part of your component controller, as of now nothing is mapped here. Okay, as part of component controller, click on what? Controller usage. What is that? I'll choose what? Interface controller. It is showing me right hand side. Do the reverse mapping. What do you have to do? Map this node with what? Our node. Again, this is also what? External context mapping. Okay, but it is from what? Interface controller to what? Our component controller. Okay, because we are where? Here. Under what? Under component uses here. Left hand side will show the interface control, right hand will show what you are doing. We are mapping our VBA node with data node. This is under what? Component use. Now we are at what? Component controller level. It will show our context first. Then this is your included component context. So what you have to do now in component controller? Okay, if you go to this, I can do mapping from always from what? Right to left. But here what I have to do now? I have to do like this. So that's the reason. Come to what? Component controller. Now map this top of list to our, the structure should be same. That node also is having one attribute, this is also having one attribute. That attribute is also of type what? Reference of the class. Here also it will be same. Names can be different, but the type should be what? Same. Any of the node names are different. Na? Here it is top of list, it is top of list node. Okay, doesn't matter. I tried. Mapping for the context element is what? Defined. Similarly, end of list, right? So they are mapped. They are mapped. Okay. So if you see the mapping, this is a map. It is mapped from what? So and so. Done. Now let me check it. So what are the things I have done so far? I have taken some two additional node as part of what? Our component controller with an attribute of type what? Reference of a class CLSLE form element. Okay. Then as part of component controller, we have done the external context mapping. That is, we mapped the nodes top of list and end of list of the standard component to what? Our component. So when I execute this, let me right click and activate. When I execute, still nothing is there. Now to generate the content, okay, so very simple. In the WD unit method of the view, yeah, in the WD method, somewhere here, Logic for what? Generating content for what? Top of list. Okay, so we have a class here. We have a class cl underscore slv underscore form underscore layout underscore what grid. Okay, this is a class. This is one of the class given by what? SAP. So if you go to this class, yeah, what is this class here? See, it is what? The public class. Done. In this there is a method. Now can I create the object for this class? Yes, it is public. Before creating the object, check whether the class contains any constructor. Okay, so let me check whether it contains any constructor. Yes. Does it have any mandatory parameters? Okay, there is a parameter which is what? Optional. Okay, done. So what I'll do is, let me create the object. So here I'll say data ob type ref. What is the class? Cl underscore sl underscore form underscore layout underscore grid. Here I'll use the pattern. Okay, above objects pattern. Create object. What is that? Ob. What is the class? Cl slv underscore form underscore layout underscore what? Grid. Exporting columns equal to two columns. Okay, two columns I'm giving. Okay, huh? Optional, but I want to construct how many columns here? One, two columns. I am giving that columns. Okay, now set the text for what? Each cell. So how do you set here? In the same class, once I create the object, there are some many methods are there. One of the method is, oh, not there, huh? Yeah, there's a method what? Create underscore what? Text. Create text element in what? Cell. Instance public. How do you access? By using the object. Check the parameters. Oh, yeah, row number and column number are what? Mandatory. Row number, column mandatory, and text is what? Optional. Any text you can give. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'll go to pattern. What is that? Ob. What is the class? Cl underscore slv underscore form underscore layout underscore grid. What is the method? Create underscore what? Text. Create underscore text. Row number is 1, column number is what? 1. Okay, text. I'll give a text as something. Chunks of technologies. Done. All these are optional. Done. Okay, how many columns is specified? Two columns. So I'll just, again, row number 1, column number is what? 2. Okay, done. Then again I'll call that method. Row number is 2, column number is what? 1. Then row number is 2, column number is 2. Provide whatever text you want. Done. So this object is associated with what? Some text. Okay, so save it, check it. Done. Now this text you have to associate the top of page, na? So what is the node which is mapped to top of page? Oh, where is that? Acha, it is not there in what? We will map it. Okay, I'll map it this here. Top of list node. Done. So I have to set the value for this attribute, na? Okay, so first of all, you'll get the reference of the node. So here I'll say what? Get the reference of the node. What? Top of list underscore node. So data context underscore top of list type ref2 what if underscore wd underscore context underscore what node. Okay, this top of list is a child of what? Root. Child of root. So as usual, yeah, what is that? wd underscore what? Context. If wd context node, what is this? Get child node. Get child node. Okay, what is the name of the node? wd underscore this of what? wd context underscore top of list underscore what? Node. Okay, what is the reference? Context underscore top of what? List. Context underscore top of list. Then set the value of the what? Attribute what? What is the attribute name? What? Content. Okay, so I got the reference of this node. Under this we have what? Attribute what? Content. Content is what type? It is expecting object of which class? CLSLE form element. How do you set the value of any attribute? Set attribute. So I'll go to pattern. What is that reference I got? Context underscore what? Top of list set underscore what? Attribute. Set underscore attribute. Okay. Value is equal to what is the object I created earlier? OB. Name equal to what? Content. So just try to understand. This is the attribute. Content is expecting the it's an attribute which is expecting the object of which class? CLSLE form element. But what I did here, I am passing the object OB. What is this OB? OB is object of which class? CLSLE form layout grid. So there is a relationship between what? Form layout grid and what? CLSLE form element. Friendship relationship. Okay, that's why I can pass. Okay, that's why when I do syntax check, no errors done. So when I execute this, yes, what happened? I got what? Some content on what? What is this? Cell one, one comma, 1 comma 1. This is 1 comma 2, 2 comma 1, and 2 comma 2. Okay, so here I am creating the object for that layer. Grid is nothing but what? Collection of what? Rows and columns. So I am setting two columns. I am associating the text, and then we have to associate this object to this attribute. What is this attribute type? Expecting the object of what? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore what? Elements. Okay, but we are having the object of which class? We are having the object of which class? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore layout underscore grid. Let us check what is the relationship. This is a class. If I go to friend, okay, what is the friend here? CL underscore SLV underscore form. Otherwise, let me go to what? Object list. Okay, so for this, yeah, see, observe here. What is a superclass for this? CL underscore SLU underscore form underscore U underscore layout grid. If I expand this, again this has what? Some superclasses UI layout. Again this has what? Oh, the hierarchy will continue. Somewhere you'll have that. Somewhere you'll have that form underscore what? Yeah, is it there? Understood? There is a relationship between what? This class and what? This class. Okay, so how to check that superclass subclasses? Just click on what? Object list here. When I click on the object list, it will show you all the superclasses and what? Subclasses. You have to hmm. Obviously, no. Hierarchy, multi-level what? Inheritance. Okay, see, it can be like this now. We have class A, okay, which is inherited from what? B. B might have been inherited from what? C. C might be inherited from what? D. D might be inherited from what? E. Okay, and then so who is a superclass for C? B. Okay, B is the subclass of what? A. Okay, now I can take one more class. What is that? I can take M. Okay, M also is inherited from what? B. So this B, or I'll put it like this. Yeah, M is what? Inheriting from what? B. So observe here, B is a superclass for what? C. B is a superclass for what? M. Na? So how many subclasses B has got? Two subclasses. One is what? C. Another is what? M. There is no link between what? M and what? C. Understood? So that's what the hierarchy here. Am I clear? The, there can be any number of classes inheriting what? Same class. Na? Okay, I can do ABAP course from what? Gensoft. Okay, I can do ABAP course from what? XYZ Institute. So, is it clear? ABAP. So, for this, how many super classes are there? Two super classes. Again, same thing here. Right. So, now, did we got the content of that? Where is that? Yeah, we got the content for that. Similarly, you do it for what? What? End of list. Same kind of thing. Let me just here in the top of list only in the init method itself, I'll say logic for generating what? Content for what? End of list. Okay, so let me say ob1 here, object is what? Ob1. Then I'll say ob1 here. Okay, here I'll say some text. Ob1 here, object is different. Ob1, ob1. Here I'll say something SAP UI5. Done. Get the reference of the node what? End of list. Let me give the reference as what? End of list. Done. And here, what is that node name? End of list node. I'll get the reference here. What is this? End of list. And here also what? End of list. This time the object is what? OB one. So each object is having what? Some content. Oh, why it is an acha. I have not mapped. Na? I have mapped only what? Top of list. So map this end of list also to your view. Then not it to recognize. Na? Done. Let me save it. Now if you go to this, save it, check it, done, activate. Same thing, okay, but the object is what different. So when I execute this, I got the context. Okay, so I went for which class? CL what? Farm layout grid. Okay, so CL underscore, what is that class? CL underscore SALV underscore farm underscore layout underscore grid. So here CL underscore SAL underscore what? I say F4. CL underscore SALV underscore F4. Yeah, farm layout is there. What is this? GRM, it's a view model for ALV grid. One second. Many things are there. Okay, so grid is there, farm layout grid is there. Anything else I can use? I can't use these classes because they are not public classes. Yeah, they are what? protected. So I have to use only what? Public classes. So go for only this class, form underscore what? Layout underscore grid, so that I can create the object. In this, what is the method I called? Yes, create underscore what? Text. Create underscore text. Okay, see, I went for create underscore text. Okay, you can call other methods also. What is this? Create what? Header information. Might be you'll get it in bold. Create header information. What is the parameters for this? Yeah, row number, call number. You also what? Text. But you may, since it is what? Header, you will get it in what? Bold. Okay, like this. Create label. Create label element. I can also create what? Label element it seems. Okay. Mm-hmm. Ah. Then a header means don't think that you'll get it in header. I can call the method footer also. You'll get in bold format. You'll get only in the bold format, highlighted text. So what is the technique for generating top of list, end of list? There is no separate event. What you have to do? How do you generate top of list and end of list for Webdynpro LV report means? What you have to say? As part of your component, we have to take two additional nodes for what? One is for top of list, another is for what? End of list. As part of that node, we need to conserve an attribute which is of what type? Reference of what? CL underscore SLV underscore form underscore element. And to this nodes, we have to do the external context mapping. Means we have to map the nodes top of list and end of list of the included component. What is the included component here? SLW table. You have to map the nodes top of list and end of list to our nodes. You have to do the reverse mapping. Okay, then what? Construct the content for this particular two nodes. So that's anyhow we have done, but this is important. Entry point of view, mapping is you have to tell highlight this, and then how do you construct the text? Create text, all those things. Clear? So here, if you observe, yeah, what is this? Top of list and what? End of list, and adding custom buttons. Yeah, I covered it yesterday, right? So ALV what? Row coloring, ALV column coloring. Okay, okay, integrating fine. We need to discuss what? ALV column is what? Buttons. ALV columns is what? Hyperlink. Yeah, we'll do that. So what I'll do is, so the schedule is tomorrow. I'll try to wind up this ALV. I'll discuss what? Interactive ALV. In that only, I'll cover these two things. What is this? Displaying ALV columns as hyperlink or what? Buttons. Then we'll see what are the events related to that. Yesterday, what is the event we have handled? On function, on underscore function. Similarly, for hyperlink and for button, there might be what? Some event. So we have to handle that. Once I'm done with this part, I'll go to this part. What is this? Dynamic programming, where I have to create the layout and what? Layout and context dynamically. This I'll cover it. This will take some 2 days. Then we have to discuss what? F4 help. Then after that, we have to discuss what? FPM. And this is simple only. FPM na, see in this anyhow so far we have focused much on what coding part. Okay, so here what is the advantage of this FPM is we can minimize the coding, but we have to focus on the development activity. So we'll spend around 1 week of time on what? FPM. Again, this is a vast subject. Okay, vast subject. Okay, so we'll understand what is the meaning of floor plan manager, how to integrate, what is the difference between FPM and the normal Webdynpro. Okay, so this will take around, we require around 7 to 10 hours. 7 to 10 hours. Okay, so we'll see that. Okay, so I'll stop today. Tomorrow we'll see the final class on what? ALV reporting. We'll see what? Interactive. Done. So just practice this. I have shared the last week sessions in the preview. Hope everyone received it. What about others online? I have shared it with everyone. Everyone, you got that preview? Okay. So just go through that. Okay. So once I complete this ALV, yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll keep it for one more week also, no problem. Okay, so once I complete this area, I'll upload this last 2 3 days also. Then we'll go for dynamic programming and what F4 help, and there is some miscellaneous topics. After that, we'll go to what FPM. Okay, so I'll wind up for today. We'll continue tomorrow.